Welcome back to Footballology. So up next we have the Tennessee Titans up for their offseason grade. And when it comes to the Titans, in 2019, granted it wasn't a successful year, but they ended up getting to the AFC Championship game, and they gave the Baltimore Ravens and the New England Patriots a run for their money on their way there. So that just let us know that in 2020 that the Titans were going to be a really formidable opponent. Now, when they brought back Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and then A.J. Brown with another year under his belt, we thought that this team was definitely going to be something to be reckoned with. But a couple of injuries really caught up to him, most notably the Taylor Lewan injury, the one that stood out to me the most because I believe in the good trenches. I tell you guys all the time. But when Taylor Lewan went out, I felt like that was a really big and huge impact on this roster. Jadeveon Clowney wasn't what they were expecting when they picked him up throughout free agency. And they had some other guys that they picked up in the later part of the season that just didn't really pan out. So they ended up having a first round exit against the Baltimore Ravens in the wild card round. But overall, this team is for the most part still intact. So going into this offseason, they didn't need a lot or do a lot. But for me, if anything, it was really kind of fortifying the offensive line and really bringing in some other guys. Another piece that I felt like they were missing in 2020 was Jack Conklin. I don't think enough goes like this man is the number one right tackle in the league. Jack Conklin is, and I just don't think he gets enough credit for that. But when they lost Jack Conklin, I felt like that was a big impact on this offensive line as well, and the way they were able to run the ball and really control people up front. But overall, the 2020 team, they still put up some good numbers. They put up some good stats, and they were still a formidable opponent. It was just they had that first round exit against Baltimore. So they just needed to tweak a couple more things, and most notably, getting a pass rush and also fixing their offensive line. So now when we fast forward to the free agency period, the Tennessee Titans knew going into it they needed to fix their pass rush, they needed to fix their offensive line, or at least create some more depth on the offensive line. And then they also lost guys like Jonnu Smith and Malcolm Butler to the free agency, so that was something that was also impacting them as well. So they knew that they had a couple of things to tweak, but for the most part they wanted to get better in some of their weaker spots. The first and most notable transaction that they had in the offseason was picking up Bud Dupree on a fat contract, and that was something that a lot of people were kind of like, okay, it makes sense. They needed to fix their pass rush, and you go get one of the league's top pass rushers. Bud Dupree was due for a big contract, and it only made sense for them to go out and get him, signing him to that 5-year deal, which I'm completely okay with. Like I said, the Jadeveon Clowney experiment didn't really work out for them, so hopefully that this Bud Dupree actually pays dividends and actually gives them an opportunity to be more elite on the defensive front. Getting Janoris Jenkins for cornerback position. Now, when it comes to Janoris Jenkins, I feel like smaller corners should always play the slot, but for some reason, this man Janoris can play the outside with some of the best corners in the league. So I'm actually really excited for that pickup for them, losing Malcolm Butler there. And then, they also lost Desmond King, who they think they traded for from the Chargers, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that, but I'm guessing. And then picking up Kevin Johnson on 1-year deal creates more depth at the cornerback position. Ty Saburo picking him up at the tackle position, once again creating more depth. Josh Reynolds losing Corey Davis to the Jets. Now you bring in Josh Reynolds, who is another guy that probably can just be an actual weapon for Ryan Tannehill to be able to push the ball down the field. And I think that was pretty much it on their notable signings. And then they picked up a couple other guys here and there to kind of fill some voids. And I really don't want to go past May because I haven't gone past May with any other teams, and that'd be kind of cheese. So, but anyways, most notably, like I said, Janoris Jenkins, Bud Dupree, and those are some void fillers, and hopefully some guys like Ty Saburo create some depth as well. So I'm kind of excited for some of their free agent acquisitions. I feel like they had some really good, strong free agent acquisition, especially picking up Bud Dupree, who is the crown jewel of the offseason. So now taking a look at the Tennessee Titans draft class, getting a guy like Caleb Farley at 22, easily still. I thought Caleb Farley could easily been a top 10 pick. He was a good corner, but I think he had some medical issues, and the reason why he fell, if I can't remember correctly. Once again, don't quote me on that. But anyways, it was still for them. And also getting Elijah Molden. I think Elijah Molden is going to be a guy that can possibly help them fill that void of Desmond King, because I feel like Desmond King is probably one of the best nickels in the league right now, and he doesn't get enough credit for that as well. And then getting a guy in the second round, Dylan Radins, I think was also important too. Hopefully he can create some competition along that offensive line. If not, worst case scenario, add some depth to it. He looked really good at the Senior Bowl, and I possibly can see him as a starter at the right tackle. Like I said, losing guys like Isaiah Wilson and Jack Conklin definitely showed that they were lacking some talent and depth on that offensive line last year. And then Taylor Lewan getting hurt didn't help the case at all either. And then getting Des Fitzpatrick in the 4th round is also going to create more competition and depth, having guys like A.J. Brown, Josh Reynolds, and some of the other receivers they got. And I know they brought in Julio Jones, but I'm not going to count it in my final offseason grade for them. But getting Julio Jones is definitely clutch as well. So the thing that I loved about the Titans draft and overall offseason is that they were relentless at going to get what they needed. There were a lot of teams I felt like this year that knew what their weaknesses were, knew where their voids were at, and still danced around it and made other decisions that did not impact the roster greatly. Whereas the Tennessee Titans did everything in their power to go get a guy like Bud Dupree, to go get a guy like Janoris Jenkins, to go get a guy like Kevin Johnson, to go get Josh Reynolds, to go get Dylan Raditz in the draft, to go get Caleb Farley. They added so much talent and depth to this team that really that you think they already had a lot of talent in there, but they added the depth that they were missing, and hopefully added more talent in the process. So I love their offseason. Honestly, you can't hate their offseason. Like I said, I'm not including the Julio Jones deal because that was after the fact. But the fact of it is even that just going and being aggressive and knowing that they have a window right now, and it's not even that small of a window, but it's still a window that they have that they can possibly roll off some championship, ball right now. And they got all the way to the AFC Championship game, so they're not that far removed from that. And they got to the playoffs, so they're right there. They're on the brink, and they know what they're missing. And they went out and they were really aggressive at attacking those needs and those voids, and hopefully making this team that team that can get over that hump, the AFC Championship hump, and then possibly get into the Super Bowl. But that's all I have for you guys in this video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're a Tennessee Titans fan, do you feel like I graded your guys' offseason too high, or did you agree with me as well? And what are some moves or transactions that you guys made that I didn't mention in this video? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'll be looking out for that. And if you're not a footballologist yet, I don't know what you're waiting on. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button today and become a footballologist. And stay safe, football fans.